Hello, it's Brenda Shanley, and today we're in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, and we plan on going on a haunted ghost walk tour, and that should be happening in the next 20 minutes or so. I'm using my iPhone, so I know I'm probably not looking into the lens, but so yeah, we're gonna start our haunted ghost tour soon, so stay tuned.
Footpath that goes all the way around the lake. So you can look into the backside of the summer homes that were built. Most of the homes built up here in Lake Geneva were built during the Victorian era. Now the Victorian era itself is about 1865, 1870, up until about the turn of the century. That's when the Queen Victoria reigned, and so we kind of followed in their footsteps. Even though we didn't want to be England, we still followed them. So a lot of the Victorian homes that you see had names attached to them, like Maytag, Wrigley, Sears, Schwinn. Otto Young built a 100-room stone manor just down at the entrance here to the path and down a little bit. And the most unusual thing about his house is he put a pool on the roof. I guess they didn't have insurance companies back then. Pretty cool. Now, also said that he had some rather sordid parties that happened there. But I don't have any stories on his building yet. The rich white, the people who were here before the rich white folk of Chicago, and that's the Potawatomi tribe. Now the Potawatomi tribe themselves actually came here in about the 1600s. They got tired of warring with the Blackhawks for tribal land, so they ended up packing up and moving westward and taking us basically a soul journey. And when they got to this area, they fell in love. They felt that this was home. Now originally when they got to this area, this park had two giant effigy mounds already here. One was of a giant panther, the other was of a giant lizard. Now, the giant mounds themselves were built by, we call them the giant mound builders, because that's all we know. We literally have no idea when the mounds themselves were built or who built them, the society that built them, none of that. So literally, we call them the giant mound builders because they built giant mounds. Now, normally, when you come into an area, or you might take over and erase the people that were here prior to. But the Potawatomi didn't. They actually ended up incorporating these two mounds into their own mythology. Now the Potawatomi people said that there were two creatures that lived in and around the Lake Geneva area. The first one was Mishipeshu. Now Mishipeshu had the body of a panther, the tail of the serpent. He lived out in the deepest part of the lake. And he wasn't very nice. Now, if you were out in your canoe and you got a little too close to his lair, he would tell you, "You're too close, go away." And if you didn't listen, he would lash out with his tail, smash your boat, and leave you floating kind of like fish food on the water. Now, Mishipeshu's mortal enemy was the Shia, otherwise known as giant thunderbirds. And these giant thunderbirds really didn't like Mishipeshu. They liked to stir up trouble. So what they do is they would fly over Lake Geneva, they'd seek him out, and then they'd start pelting him with their eggs. Now this would upset Mishipeshu, and he'd start roiling up from the water, and they'd start battling him. So you can imagine the thunder, the lightning, the waves crashing from them battling. And they said they battled it out on Conference Point, which is in that direction. Now, the Potawatomi tribe, maybe that was their way of explaining the sudden thunderstorms that we get here around the lake. And I've even seen it myself where I've been down here and it's like, okay, it's raining, it's storming, and it's not even on radar yet. And most of our storms actually come from that direction. Now, of course, you got the Victorians that they came in about the 1870s. They started really settling here and pushed the Potawatomi out. And you'd think that maybe the mythology would have died with it. Because, I mean, thanks to the Victorian people, that's one of the reasons why we call this Flatiron Park. It is the flattest piece of property now in all of Lake Geneva. But I think the mythology got passed along. Now, starting during the Victorian era, little stories started coming about. In the 1890s, Ed Fay and his sons were out in their canoe or their boat fishing on the water. They said all of a sudden they saw this serpent-like creature in the water. They came up close to their boat and it had blue-green scales with a tinge of brown. They kind of looked very feathery, and it might have been about 10 feet long, and it came right up to them, and then it knocked their boat over, capsizing it, and they had to end up swimming back to shore. Well, articles started coming out, like, well, Janesville Gazette got a hold of the story. They talked about this serpent-like creature in Lake Geneva, and they called it Jessie. And of course, there was one lady that lived in Sharon. She goes, "Oh, I thought everybody knew about our serpent. My son is a steamboat captain. He likes to tell me stories at dinner time about the serpent that likes to play in the wake of the boats." Now, of course, not to be outdone by a little tiny newspaper, the Milwaukee Sentinel got a hold of it, and all of a sudden our sea creature became 65 feet long, 10 inches in diameter, and they called it his snake ship. Kind of like how you call someone your lordship. Yeah. So you can imagine all the people in their Victorian gowns and Victorian suits in the heat of the summer lining the banks looking for this to pop out of the water. And of course, by the turn of the century, the stories of this started to fade away. And by the time we actually had cameras readily available, we don't even get this on grainy film. Now, there's a couple of theories, and one of which me and the other tour guide created. There was.
Okay, so we just got home from Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, where we took a haunted ghost walk tour, and it was very, very nice. I showed a little bit of it on camera, and then some of it was off camera, and it was so much fun. I would recommend this to anyone, and it was our guide was just amazing. So it was really fun. We also stopped in front of the lakefront, and we were told about 2 ladies of the lake there. And then we went to the baker's house, and it's like this beautiful, gorgeous Victorian, like they turned it into a hotel, I think it is now. And that was beautiful. And then we went to the Maxwell Mansion, and that was really pretty cool about that place too, the story and the history behind it. And then we, at that same place, at the mansion, we went downstairs where it's supposed to be, you know, pretty haunted and a lot of stuff happening there. But, I mean, it was a pretty cool place. And if you're really nice to the bartenders there, they will tell you stories. They might even give you the password to go downstairs. Yeah, so it's really fun. So there, I know downstairs there's a wall that you can walk through, and I don't know, it's crazy. I guess the guy was a doctor and was practicing down there, and they even have like a blood drain down there, so you get to see the blood drain, and it's just crazy. It's just a lot of fun. If you want to have a lot of fun on a tour, just do that one. The Lake Geneva Ghost Walk Tour place. It was a lot of fun. And we brought family with too, and they had a lot of fun too. So I would suggest it, and it was really a good time. So, well, thank you all, and blessings to all. Bye.